Support for Short Stops is presented by the Caylum Trading Institute. Check out our website at www.cayluminstitute.com. On today's episode,
by 2030, 8.5 billion people will walk the earth, forming the building blocks for new breakthroughs to emerge. How will we keep up in the midst of a constantly changing world? We might not be able to know the future, but megatrends can be a beacon for where the world is heading. The opportunity is ours.
call it what you want, a game, an experiment, a gamble. But stock trading in the global financial markets to us is a business. Every day you're surrounded by the noise. Buy, sell, hold, buy more. And we're going to quiet it down and filter out the best trading strategies, tips, and stock picks. You want information on how to find your next bagger or home run? You'll find it right here on Short Stops.
Welcome everybody to episode 16 of Short Stops, and today we're going to be talking about big winners and how a lot of these winners materialize from the very beginning. And with us today is the Head of Research of Citisecurities, Mr. Leonard Chua.
Hello everyone.
So if you look through time, everybody knows today that the biggest winners you have Google, Facebook, Tesla. But back in the day, we also had big winners that turned out to be boring companies today. So at one point in time, PLDT, Globe were also big winners. Before any of smartphones, we had PCs, and Microsoft used to be the biggest winner. During the internet bubble in 1999, right, Yahoo became one of the biggest leaders. So what are similar denominators behind all of these great stories?
So what we've noticed through the past, even looking at all the great traders in history, is the idea of finding big trends. And we always stress in Caylum that we want to look for megatrends. And megatrends are always things that significantly alter the lifestyle of everyone. For example, the Apple. When they introduced the iPhone, everyone's lifestyle significantly changed. And so many of these companies, when they started, they're introducing a product that could change the way we live. And that is normally the start of big winners.
But how would you know at the very beginning it would have such a profound impact? Like, I mean, you talked about Apple.
Yes.
When it was starting, di mo naman alam na...
Of course. To be honest, when the iPad came out, sabi ko, malaking e-book reader lang naman yan eh.
Okay,
I mean,
okay.
that's the...
True, true.
But I think that's also the reason why the stock prices of these companies really move. Because on the start, there's a lot of doubt. There's skepticism. And so even the numbers are there. Let's say revenue growth is so strong. The doubt is there. So the prices are slow to expect that the trend will be a big one. So I think the skepticism is part of why these stocks could do well. That's why we always stress the FTSR, because the technicals already sometimes show that maybe the smart institutions
are getting
know
ahead.
something,
Alam na,
that it's
nauna
a
na.
big trend.
Okay.
And what I always try to recall from history is like, for me, kasi Darvas is the first techno-fundamentalist.
Okay.
And even in his book, the How I Made $2 Million in the Stock Market, he already stressed at that time that he wanted to buy stocks where the view is a 20-year view. So he was talking about this time, it was 1950s, about jet fuel, rockets. So at that time, that means he's not holding it for 20 years, he's saying it, but he wants stocks where it appears that in 20 years it could be something big. He's not sure, but he wants those. And I think that was the start of people starting to look for mega trends.
So when Darvas was talking about having that longer term point of view, he's not sure also if it's going to happen.
Yes.
So there's always that uncertainty.
Yes.
But he's looking to that point of view now. There's a high probability of success, of that being able to be achieved.
Yes.
Okay.
And then if it succeeds, price could move really big. Because, I mean, even with our own experience, like, for example, Facebook or Amazon, it's not something we're not aware of. It's something we see, we use every day.
But if you look at Facebook as a social media company, before that you had Friendster, you had
Yes.
MySpace. These guys died. And I assume in the e-commerce space before Amazon, I'm sure there's already e-commerce startups that tried and also failed.
I really believe if you're asking for certainty from the start, that's very tough.
Okay.
That's very tough. The way we try to do our best is to understand whether there's really a moat. But it's also very tough to identify in advance, because even in the social media space, early on you had Yelp. Eventually, today it's not that big of a market for him, or
Correct.
So
There's still a lot of skepticism, like you were saying.
Yes.
So even in Megatrends, when they're starting out, I mean, everything's hindsight that what became where it is
Yes.
today, right? But even during the beginning stages, I'm sure there were so many challenges within the industry also.
Correct. In my perspective, to take advantage of the mega trends, to really find the big winners, you have to try to find them early stages, because that's where our emotions get so excited, even if we're still not super sure. But because the numbers are being delivered early on, even let's say the 3D printing, it was the stocks are DDD and SSYS. They did really well in 2010 to 2014, and they just started with printing smartphone casings. You can now print using
What material did they use?
instead of ink, you can use rubber.
Okay.
You can use part plastics, etc. To the point that the public got so excited that they thought maybe one day they could print houses or airplanes.
Okay,
and
okay.
the stocks went from 10 all the way to 100. Today it's back to 10. So, but at that time, the imagination of the public went wild, and if you used a technical perspective to help you also, you can try to ride as much of that trend early on as you can.
So what do you think are the biggest megatrends going forward?
In the US, in terms of actually executing, the clearest one is the cloud. So everyone is just on a rush to move things to the cloud because it's so much efficient. It started with the big players. So you have Salesforce, where you can now automate your sales process to the cloud, and then Workday, you can now automate your HR to the cloud, and then such that today there's so many new businesses that are developing because they've already established themselves. Twilio or Okta, they're all benefiting from the current infrastructure in place created by all these initial players.
And I assume it's also related to blockchain, right?
Of course. So the thing with megatrends, sometimes they're all interconnected. So for example, talking about blockchain, the biggest beneficiary recently was also the semicon space, where the blockchain players needed so much processing powers that only the semicon providers like Nvidia could provide.
And the GPUs had to be the one to do it.
Yeah, so knowing megatrends also helps you understand the interconnection of different sectors. There are more speculative ones, such as gene therapies, where as we have more data of people's genes, they can now try to splice it. And I mean, these are more risky stocks, but they've also captured the public's imagination, and a lot of them have been going up.
How is this related now to the Philippines?
In the Philippines, for me, the mega trends are less glamorous but still more sustainable, in the sense that they're more structural. So when we talk about mega trends, one key catalyst is technology, but the other source of mega trends could also be demographics, meaning the population, what's happening to the population. And what we've seen is that historically, if you're an emerging market economy, they are very strong mega trends also, because when the middle class keeps on growing, the spending power, the growth in cities, they could be sustaining. Because China, the automobile sector has been in a megatrend for so long because there's just so many middle class millionaires coming out there. So in the Philippines, what I believe is that it's similar. We have a very young workforce, where hopefully the policies are in place. We'll keep on growing the middle class, and the mega trends that are in place are more sustainable. So consumption, infrastructure spending, tourism. Yeah. And even recently, for example, you have mega-wide. So one way to learn from mega trends, because I think identifying mega trends is not like
rocket science.
Yeah, it's not, and you don't, I mean, as with all things, you learn it through time. So whenever you find big winners in the market, and then let's say you missed it, I think one way to learn is what really happened. So, for example,
so that the next time it happens, you're prepared.
You're prepared.
Okay.
So, I think as with all things, success is a compounding thing, where you learn from what you have, and over time, things get easier and easier. For example, even the mega-wide, when we look at it, it was just a simple construction business before. But what really changed was when it built the first airport in Mactan. And suddenly, you're not just a construction, you're able to create a leasing business where there's recurring, and now today they're
Bidding for more
bidding
airports.
for more airports, and if they win one more, what will it do to earnings? And it all stems from the fact that we have a tourism megatrend in the Philippines. So that's why we're building so many airports in the first place. So if you're aware of those things, you'll be more mentally prepared to understand that those stocks, even if they've gone up a lot, could still continue. So I'd like to add that what's special about Megatrend is that normally you want stocks where there's good growth, earnings growth. And the beauty about Megatrends is that most of the time, if there's a real trend behind it, it's not a fluke. That means the growth is really coming from sustainable conditions.
Okay, because it lasts for a long period of
It
time.
lasts for a long period. The market is so big that's willing to adapt it. Netflix, when it started, it was just a US. And then it moved to Europe, to Japan. Now, in the Philippines, everyone's already starting to subscribe. So the market is so big and there's a higher chances of success. Yeah.
To wrap everything up, we talked about megatrends. We talked about looking things from a longer term time frames. Do you have anything last things to say about how you pick stocks and how you look at megatrends?
How to really find them early on, to be honest, is through technicals. Because early on, you will have smart institutions seeing the trend manifest already and taking large positions. So for me, early on, you have huge price movement, let's say 20-30% in a week with a strong gap, with strong volume. Those are alerts that, hey, maybe there's a reason this is a big trend that could start emerging. So I think I need to stress that mega trends in itself, parang kulang eh. You need the technicals really to help you out to sort the good mega trends from the bad.
So and then after you see the price, then you know whether it's going to be sustainable or
Yes,
not.
then you question
you question.
what's changed. I mean, is the product becoming adopted faster than before? Then the market at first, as usual, it's gonna doubt it. Eh. So I always understand that the doubt phase, even on our part, exists because there's this company today in the US. Do you do LASIK?
Yes.
So
I just had mine.
You just had yours. Okay naman. Good.
Okay naman. No problem.
Okay. So there's people who's afraid of LASIK because it can create complications and patay na eh kung there's only one chances of
Well, I've never heard a horror story yet.
yeah. So it's actually a safe procedure, but people are always afraid. I mean, you get stories of night blindness or whatever. So there's this new company where he created a different method. They implant a contact lens on your eye, and it's supposedly safer, better results, but it's not invasive. So for me, it's just called STAA in the USA. So, question is, everyone is starting to wear glasses, especially because maybe we are using smartphones and so much. Is there a mega trend? And their sales growth has been accelerating. The stock price just exploded. So for us, immediately it interests me that maybe there's a mega trend where it could start replacing LASIK. And if that happens, that could be huge. So these are thought processes that you need to imagine. Meaning megatrends require your imagination before it happens. And sometimes you look kooky. I mean, people say, what are you thinking? I mean, but I guess that's part of it. And then you trust that the technicals will help support you.
Leonard, thanks so much for being here. We couldn't have done this without you. Looking at megatrends.
Oh.
All right, guys. Until next week. See ya.